One of the fastest ways to limit EMF exposure inside our homes is to turn off Wi-Fi and go back to the wired internet. Before you let out a groaning sigh at the thought of the days of dial-up and slow connections, take comfort in knowing that wired Ethernet internet is not only safer but is actually faster and more secure, making it a very reliable choice to stay connected without emitting high levels of EMF. Do it yourself. If you don't feel as though you have the know-how to wire your home, you can always call an expert to do it for you. But the process is not as difficult or overwhelming as it may seem. Do it yourself with this easy-to-follow, step-by-step guide for how to turn off Wi-Fi on the router and get your internet through Ethernet wires instead. First, make sure you have all of the proper equipment that you will need, including a modem, an Ethernet switch, and Ethernet cables. If you currently have Wi-Fi, our internet provider may be leasing you a modem. The cost is typically bundled into a monthly bill. If you do not have a modem, you will need to pick one up. You can order one online or visit a store that sells telecommunication devices or electronics. Modem. Since the modem often serves as a wireless router, you will need to know how to turn off Wi-Fi on the router. If you do not yet have a modem, make sure the one you purchase has the ability to turn off Wi-Fi. Ethernet switch. The Ethernet switch allows you to connect several cables to the modem through the switch. Make sure you purchase one that has enough ports to allow you to connect as many cables as you need. This will be determined by how many devices you want to wire to the internet. Depending on which Ethernet switch you choose, you may be allowed as many as 8 ports. Ethernet cables. When you are purchasing Ethernet cables, look for ones that are shielded or reinforced. This will reduce the EMF output even more. With cables, you can get one cable for each device, or use one cable for several devices if they are not all in use at the same time. Choose Ethernet cables that are long enough to run from the modem to the rooms in your house and that are at least a Cat5 or newer. Step-by-step guide. After you have gathered all of the necessary equipment, it's time to plug in the cables and run them throughout your house. Start by plugging in your modem and consulting the instruction guide for your particular model to set it up according to your internet service provider's guidelines. As soon as it is properly connected to the internet, plug in the Ethernet cable into the Ethernet port on the modem. Connect the opposite end of the cable to the Ethernet switch. From here, you will run the remaining cables from the switch directly to each room of your house where you will be using your internet-ready devices. Most likely, this will involve drilling small holes through floors, walls, and ceilings to keep the cables as much tucked out of the way as possible. Running them through or along the walls, ceilings and floorboards allow you to make the best use of the lengths of the cable, as well as keeping the cables out of the way for both aesthetic purposes as well as safety from potential tripping on the wires. You may also want to take the cables to the walls or floors. Once the hard work is done, and your cables are run to each room where you want internet access, it's time to start plugging in your devices. Devices that often use internet connectivity include televisions, computers, video game consoles, or any device with an Ethernet port. Cell phones don't usually come with an Ethernet port, but you will be able to use your computer to search the internet, which is safer. One of the final steps will be to turn off the Wi-Fi on the modem as well as on all devices that are Wi-Fi enabled. Since each device varies in how this is done, you will want to check with your user manual to make sure this is done properly. Now, it's time to enjoy your safer internet connections throughout your home.